Howdy folks, this video is going to be the historic portion of the new Capenna set championship, where I am playing Jeskai Yorion Control with Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and Saiba Syphoner. This is pretty similar to a list that I have played on the channel before, but with some specific tweaks to improve matchups based on what I was generally predicting was going to be the metagame for the set championship. First and foremost, I wanted a deck that beat food, and I think that this is one of the best decks for the express purpose of beating food without going like all in on Yasharn or something like that. And the general reason for that is that between Dovin's Vetoes, Portable Holes, March of Otherworldly Lights, and Recursion, you have access to enough effective ways to shut down Trail of Crumbs, and Narset shuts down a lot of their other card advantage engines, and you just like have effective spot removal for their threats. And then Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, Saiba Syphoner, Teferi, and Farewell post board just let you go over the top and grind them out and just have a pretty effective game plan against food decks in general. But although food was the deck that I expected to be the most successful and wanted to be able to beat, the other decks on my mind were Blue-White Auras and Jeskai Phoenix. Blue-White Auras, I was much happier with the idea of playing Jeskai against than any other kind of control, just because Jeskai has more low-cost effective removal that can kill Aura's creatures at instant speed, which is super important when they play so many protection spells. The timing that you get to play your spells with and the increased percentage of time where you actively get to use your mana is critical against them, because the game tends to get decided in like the first 3 or 4 turns based on who gets to play their spells and who doesn't at what timing. Whereas Blue-White has way more spells that are sorcery speed because they have to play more Portable Holes, they have to play weaker removal, and March of Otherworldly Light is not as ideal as a lot of other red removal for the Auras matchup, but it's acceptable. And between Molten Impact, Flameless Bolt, Lightning Helix, we have a lot of very powerful early removal against Auras that I was just generally going to be happy playing, I think. Phoenix was a matchup that I know can be favored for Jeskai. Part of the problem with the Saiba Syphoner Fable of the Mirrorbreaker game plan is that it grinds really well against food and lots of other random decks, and is super powerful in control mirrors, which I expected to be way more popular. Probably the 3rd most popular archetype overall, and that just turned out to be wrong, which is kind of interesting, and I don't really know why. Because Phoenix adding Ledger Shredder actually made it weaker against control in my experience, so I'm not sure what went into that whole tangent of other players not bringing control decks, but basically, the Fable Saiba Syphoner lock gives, having access to the cards Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and the card Saiba Syphoner, which are both independently very, very good against control by being kind of innate 2-for-1s that provide mana advantage and are awkward for control to have to answer, either in the case of Fable of the Mirrorbreaker just because sorcery speed threats against control aren't always the best because they can counter it, but specifically when Hero of Dominaria is the card that you are the most scared of in control mirrors, being able to play something on 3 on the draw does not threaten your opponent to immediately punish you. So Fable of the Mirrorbreaker comes down at a point where it's still something you're allowed to cast in the context of historic control mirrors. And once it's down, both the creature that makes treasures and the flipped Fable are both just like worth a card because of the way that they both represent card advantage and tempo advantage and threatening planeswalkers, which is the axis that the matchup usually hinges on post board. It's just like a 2-for-1 that demands an answer immediately on the first half, or you take over the game. And Saiba Syphoner also is just an instant speed threat that produces card advantage that pressures planeswalkers. It's basically like a Shark Typhoon that doesn't get blown out by Archmage's Charm. It's counterable, but the timing of it is such that you generally don't want to counter it. And then the represented lock, when you combine the 2 cards, is excellent overall. Which brings us to Phoenix, which is a matchup that This deck has a lot of cards that are good against. Anger of the Gods, Lightning Helix, Molten Impact, Flame Blast Bolt, Narset, Shark Typhoon, and Hero of Dominaria are all very, very solid cards in that matchup. But of all the major archetypes, it's probably the one that's the closest to 50-50 for this deck. And most of that is because I opted to play a lot of March of Otherworldly Lights to be good against food, which is not a bad card against Phoenix, but it's definitely not good compared to a lot of the other options. It's not ideal, really. You also have the problem with that being the one matchup where Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and Saiba Syphoner aren't very good because they're kind of just too slow and don't block flyers. Which is why we have Rest in Peace in the sideboard. So our game plan against Phoenix is that we're actually sideboarding out all of the Fable of the Mirrorbreakers and Saiba Syphoners and bringing in the Rest in Pieces and the Mystical Disputes and the Anger of the Gods and the Shark Typhoons. And then, like, trimming Archmage's Charms or something, I think, generally. I forget what I usually do. Figuring that kind of Rest in Peace Baneslayer Angel plan out and tweaking the numbers to it was what actually got me to the point where I wanted to submit this deck. Because prior to that, the Phoenix matchup was just not bad, but sketchy, and I didn't want a deck that was slightly sketchy against what was almost certainly going to be the most popular deck, even if it had great matchups against what I thought were going to be the actual best decks, which is a weird thing to consider separately, but, like, sometimes, I don't know if this is correct, but I get the urge to, like, metagame against what I think the top 64 metagame is going to be, rather than the all decks metagame. And I thought Phoenix was going to be popular, but I also thought that it was not going to be the most winning deck, and was not going to be the most represented in the top 8, or even like the top 64. So I kind of took the gamble and built a deck that was slightly weaker against Phoenix, while still probably being good, maybe being favored. That's kind of hard to gauge, but it is, and it's pretty excellent against everything else. There are definitely some bad matchups. Humans is not one I would want to play against. Rule has actually seemed kind of fine since I've added Anger of the Gods and Molten Impact. That used to be tough. Well, we talked long enough. Let's get into the games. Alright, round 4. First historic match. On the play against Blue-White Control. This has Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, which most certainly makes it an enthusiastic keep. Pump mulligans? Alright, alright. Double mulligan? Alright. It's a good start. We have 3 Jwari Disruptions, 2 Dovin's Vetoes that can answer this Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, as well as 4 March of Otherworldly Lights that can pseudo-answer it. Delightful. We can have Archmage's Charm up on 3 if I want to. I suspect I am probably not supposed to want to. Shock Pass might mean that I'm supposed to want to. I think I'm just supposed to draw 2 on their end of turn and then play Mirrorbreaker. They can Jwari Disruption the Archmage's Charm if they want. They can choose not to. Alright. Well then, let's play the Fable around. Jwari Disruption, most likely... No, it doesn't get Archmage's Charmed. Interesting. Okay. I am alright with this course of events. Archmage's Charm, stealing the Goblin Shaman forces me to march it, but nope, they choose to draw 2. Okay. That feels fine to me. Portable Hole. I can choose to march this Portable Hole in response to its ability, exiling my Portable Hole to keep my 2/2 around. Going down on resources when I'm about to loot stuff away isn't the most exciting, but it's probably fine. I think I'm supposed to do that. Alright. We did our best. Memory Deluge is delightful. Memory Deluge in response. Alright, I can live with this. I don't really want to hard cast Shark Typhoon in a matchup where my opponent has Hero Dominaria. I don't really want these lands either, however. Okay. This could be better, this could be worse. Doing this for 3 is a little risky. Archmage's Charm. I mean, I have Lightning Helix, so I could have done it for 4. I don't know why I counted that and thought that I could only do it for 3. Doing it for 4 actually might be worse than doing it for 3, though. Because if Archmage's Charm stole it, I wouldn't be able to Lightning Helix it to save my Reflection. I believe I'm just supposed to go for the attacks here. Cool. Alright, and we are just passing. Okay, human tokens more than fine. So Jwari Disruption on Memory Deluge this turn would be pretty annoying. Swing with the 1/1. Doesn't want to block. I could just pass here doing nothing. That lets them Memory Deluge at my end of turn, which would be annoying. Jwari Disruption or Dovin's Veto on Memory Deluge lets them activate Castle Ardenvale. I could just put Yorion in hand, shock a land, hold up Lightning Helix plus Archmage's Charm next turn. Nah, I think I'm supposed to Memory Deluge. I think getting a Jwari Disruption is just acceptable. Cool. Excellent. Stellar. That means I get to resolve Teferi, and I don't really care about the cards they have in hand. Okay, well, Saiba Syphoner is definitely going in hand. Should the other thing just be a Lightning Helix? Probably. And just actively try to kill my opponent? I believe plan just kill the opponent is suddenly the goal. This is going to be pretty challenging for the opponent to get out from under. Alright, Fateful Absence Teferi, which I feel like I'm encouraged to get into a counterspell war over. Maybe there's a world in which I'm just supposed to save the counterspell to defend going for lethal. But I feel like maybe I'm supposed to. I mean, they're gonna have two blockers, which isn't really interesting or relevant. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of paths to victory, but maybe using the Archmage's Charm to defend the Teferi is unnecessary. If they down tick, cool. One mana, they need to have removal for a token, which I believe means that I just Lightning Helix face, untap, Lightning Helix face, swing with Reflection, Saiba Syphoner back, Lightning Helix again, which ought to just be lethal. Good old Lightning Helix is always good in control mirrors, but mulliganing to 5 is pretty rough for them. I did not have to play that very risky, so it doesn't look like I won by much, but the fact that I was just ahead on every axis is why I didn't have to play it risky in the first place. Alright, we want vetoes, typhoons, disputes, don't want anger, don't want molten impact, don't want flame blessed bolt, don't want portable holes. That looks more or less clean. They do get important to Nezahal, which I don't really get good answers to, unfortunately. But I don't have a way around that. That's just going to have to be something on my radar as a card that I am encouraged to have a proactive game plan to play around. I don't really want to keep this, but I also don't really want to mulligan it. Cycling 2 Irrigated Farmlands is like a game plan. Sort of. There we go. Now, Fable is going to be something that they probably have a counterspell for on turn 3, but I don't really get to wait to play it when I'm on the draw, because I can't play it the turn that they're going up to 5 mana. Which means Dry Disruption is an option available to them here. Failing that, Dovin's Veto. Yeah. Narset's pretty irksome. I can resolve my own Narset here, which would be harsh into Teferi, down ticking on Narset, not something I'd really have an answer for. But it's better to have Narset into Teferi than to sorcery speed my Memory Deluge into Teferi. Mostly just have to hope there's no Teferi.
Announcement received.
Alright, this means that I have an opening to play Teferi off of Narset, which, again, is kind of weaker into their Narset, but I can play Teferi and downtick on Narset. Needs be. Okay, looks like they probably have Mystical Dispute. They have 3 in the deck. Flurry Disruption. There's the Teferi. Dare I do it?
Meditate and prepare.
More Memory Deluges. More Archmage's Charms. Probably just supposed to take the Charm. Not doing anything here really runs a risk of eventually just losing to Nezahal. But I don't really feel like I have correct alternatives. There's the Mystical Dispute. Play the untapped land, have access to double Archmage's Charm. I believe I'm just supposed to gain control of that. They know about the other Archmage's Charm, which means they can probably resolve a Teferi through Dovin's Veto now, but Teferi with Narset isn't scary, and having double Charm up wasn't going to do anything if they have Nezahal here anyway. Alright, fight a Counterspell War over Teferi. Them not having Nezahal is a fantastic sign. Yep, there's the Veto to resolve the Teferi. Teferi can uptick here to untap 2 lands, to hold up a Veto for my Teferi, but I still have an Narset in play, so it isn't drawing cards while doing that. Teferi downtick on the Shark is an option. Not one that I'm, like, directly scared of. Alright, so Veto on Hero is mostly unavoidable. Interesting. Okay. So we get to downtick on their Hero. We get to kill their Narset, provided that they do not have March. Alright, board state here is favoring us. They still have the option to draw into Nezahal, which would be bad. I think resolve Memory Deluge. They draw the Nezahal. Yeah. I do have a Narset, though, actually, don't I? Huh. I forgot Narset's good against Nezahal. Okay, so I guess I'm going to attempt to exile Narset, or exile the Nezahal at the end of my turn, which holds up Dovin's Veto. It does actually let them draw a card, which is unfortunate. I could also pass to their... Nah, that wouldn't have held up Veto. That wasn't acceptable. Alright, so they have to discard 3 to save the Nezahal here. They should technically let the draw resolve before choosing what 3 cards to discard. Alright, so the Nezahal is coming back at the end of turn. Means I get to Veto without them. Well, they wouldn't draw a card here because of the Narset anyway. Nezahal comes back. So I could play the Teferi. They draw a card, down tick on the Nezahal. They have to discard their entire hand, but then Nezahal comes back at the end of turn, which isn't really ideal. I believe I would prefer to just have the chump blocker for the Nezahal this turn.
You know what?
And then down tick this Teferi on it next turn. Playing 2 Omen of the Seas is interesting. Do I want to put Yorion in hand if I'm going to cast 2 Omen of the Seas this turn? It's actually kind of tough. I believe that I am supposed to. I don't believe that I need to have a counter spell up after the second Omen of the Sea here. Oh, I'm going to untap 2 lands anyway. Right. That's fine. Could play the Yorion this turn, which plays around a removal spell for my 2/2. But I don't think that's correct. Do they have a removal spell for the 2/2? No, they just have a Shark Typhoon cycle, which is pretty fine for me. Alright, so now I can start casting things, and they don't get to draw cards. Archmage's Charm to steal the 2/2. Omen of the Sea, my opponent doesn't draw in response. Veto for the Archmage's Charm seems pretty good. Believe I want to Omen of the Sea just to make absolutely certain that Dovin's vetoing that is what I would prefer to do. Definitely don't want more lands right now. Helix isn't terribly useful. Alright, veto and they don't draw anything. So now they need one more card in order to answer this 2/2. If they do so and kill my Teferi, but they have to use a card to do it. Perfect, okay. So they're down to 1 card, which means I can Teferi, down tick on their Nezahal, which isn't ideal because they redraw the Nezahal, but functions.
From the world any longer. Time is much more valuable to people.
Kill the shark so that it can't kill any of our stuff. Have Dispute for Memory Deluge. Good news is we know they are not playing Nezahal this turn. Teferi could Dispute to lock them out of mana. Don't think that I'm supposed to. Mostly I imagine that just down ticks on Hero of Dominaria. Upticking doesn't accomplish anything. Then I get to play Yorion. No, you're the Narset. Okay, interesting.
Let's skip to the good part.
Could hardcast Shark Typhoon. Do not believe that I am supposed to. So they will get to replay Nezahal this turn, which is pretty annoying. But I am going to have a lot of flying threats to handle that.
Sorry I'm late.
So I can make a 5/5 shark here, put them on a 2-turn clock in the air. seems worth doing. They will be able to have Archmage's Charm mana up to steal the Shark Typhoon, but they've used 3 of their 4 charms. I could opt for a 3-turn clock. I'm going to be able to downtick on the Nezahal anyway this turn. Maybe just holding up Mystical Dispute is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, I think I can do that. Five is not the number that does that. Ooh, Otawara able to bounce Nezahal is excellent. Not relevant here, though. Alright, let's bounce Nezahal now. Yorion being able to reset Teferi's loyalty was such a big deal. Wandering Emperor. I could just Otawara that after it resolves so that it can't exile something. Mystical Disputing here in response gives them an extra card, which I don't really want.
Now you've done it. That's coming off.
Alright, bounce Wandering Emperor. They will be able to re-sorcery speed it, but that eats up mana and means that I can kill Teferi with only 1 attacker this turn. They do get to make a 2/2 that kills Teferi, which kind of bites.
Keep watch for intruders. I know 88 ways. I have just the trick for this.
I could just send the 4/4 at Teferi and keep Yorion around to block the 2/2, but that's not really clocking them in a way that plays around the Yor. I'm gonna have 2 Mystical Disputes up, actually. I can probably just ignore the Teferi then, right? Or I can ignore defending my Teferi, rather. Wait, no, we downticked this. I'm not gonna have 2 additional mana. Okay, so we do need to worry about defending the Teferi then. Because I can't actually stop the Wandering Emperor from coming down and dealing with my Shark. Alright, March is excellent at dealing with Nezahal. It's not normally, but we have found ourselves in a position where it is. Fateful Absence destroying Yorion. Very well. Does that force me to march the 2/2? Or am I just better off saving the march for the Nezahal in a position where I'm already ahead and the Nezahal is the only concern? Marching doesn't let them resolve the Memory Deluge. I think I'm probably supposed to try to save the Teferi. I had a lot of ways in my deck to get March back, and I'm going to draw a lot of cards here. So this means they're not playing the Wandering Emperor this turn, which means I don't need to hold back my flyer to protect Teferi. More marches is great.
We need to move quickly.
Hardcast Shark Typhoon in this position is also delightful and also great.
There are so many mysteries to unpack with thoughtfulness before action.
Alright, pretty far ahead at this point. Farewell. Bummer. That exiles the graveyard and the Shark Typhoon, but I get to draw my card in response. Veto Archmage's Charm would be cool. No, just a land. Okay. Opponent has nothing else they can do, so I might as well crack Omen of the Sea to scry 2 here. Did not want lands, so that's cool. Okay, Lightning Helixes are fine, Narset finds, Veto is excellent. Sad about losing the Saiba Syphoners, but what can you do? Opponent's basically forced to play the Nezahal here, which just gets marched. And Narset stops them from drawing cards. And now Teferi does Teferi things. They have no more Nezahals left in the deck. Ooh, alright. Well, that is more or less how we drew it up. I forgot that I technically have an 8-mana answer to Nezahal, which made that game way easier than I was expecting. And that's not exactly what you expect to say about an 8-mana answer to a permanent, but hello, this is Control-Mir. Alright, round 5. We are against green, black, food on the play. We are going to mulligan for a hand that has lands. Okay. We're going to keep this, but this is concerning. This is not a good start. Oven isn't trail. That's a fantastic beginning. I think developing Narset's better than Expressive Iteration, specifically to play around Deadly Dispute next turn. Alright. More or less happy to filter 3 lands off the top. Narset gets poked down to 2. Could fire off Narset activation, play another Narset, or could try Expressive Iterating. Probably will depend on what else the opponent does. A little more damage, draining us away. I'm sort of interested in Narset gaining life and not giving them an opening to play Deadly Dispute here, which if I sack Narset and then play the other Narset, I am giving them an opening to do. But, on the other hand, Narset into Narset digs a lot deeper for Teferi, which Lightning Helix sort of incentivizes me to do. I think I would prefer to activate Narset, even if it gives them an opening to Deadly Dispute.
I have just the trick for this.
Cool. I believe that I want Archmage's Charm to steal Witch's Oven at this point. Which might mean not playing the Narset here. Believe that is correct in this position.
Round timer started.
Okay, we will now gain control of the Witch's Oven before they can do one more damage with it, or hold up an answer to Trail. I believe denying damage is worth not playing around the... Oh wow, they did have Deadly Dispute.
Announcement
Okay.
received.
Yeah, okay. So now that they have 3 draws towards Trail, maybe this hurt more, but I understand their timing now. Ooh, that also lets them replay it with Luris, which is rough. Okay. Anger of the Gods with no sack outlet, but I don't have a red source, which makes me want to Expressive Iteration and try to find a land. Perfect. So let's take Archmage's Charm. Shock this to hold up Archmage's Charm to counter the Luris, I think. Alternatively, could play Narset. I don't like that. So I could counter the Luris, or I could steal the Oven, which potentially gains more life in the long run and costs them 1 more point of mana here. No, because it still allows them to sack a Cauldron Familiar in response to the Archmage's Charm, which makes the Anger of the Gods a lot worse. Okay. Trail bites, especially with Gilded Goose in play. Playing Narset before Anger of the Gods means that if they Deadly Dispute to sack a cat, it hurts them. Portable Hole for the Trail is pretty good. Is it worth doing that instead of Anger? Probably. How many answers to Portable Hole do they have main deck? They have 2 Mortality Spears, which kinda sucks. I think I would rather just Anger here. Giving myself another Narset activation is a pretty big deal too. Which, if I Portable Hole the Trail of Crumbs, they can attack the Narset with 2 cats. Okay, yeah, so they keep a cat around with that Fatal Push. But if they bring the cat back now, they don't get the Trail trigger. Yeah, that's harsh. Hive attack Narset, play an untap land. Okay, okay.
I won't forget our time together.
No untap land, wow, okay. Get rid of Trail. Mortality Spear is kind of brutal. Maybe I'm actually supposed to get rid of the food token there. Then when I play Yorion, I can bounce the Portable Hole to kill the Trail of Crumbs at that point. Yeah. That's pretty brutal. A tough spot we find ourselves in with no march as of yet. I could cycle Shark Typhoon for 2 here, looking for a march on the Trail of Crumbs before they have a sack outlet for the other food trigger. I would have to exile Yorion from hand, and would have to eat a Hive attack here, putting me down to pretty low. Is that worthwhile? It is likely not worthwhile, unfortunately. Okay, Saiba Syphoner is a card. Not having March is pretty tough. As far as answering Trail goes, but we have some life gain, we've got Saiba Syphoner, we've got Yorion. That's part of a plan. Don't want to look at my graveyard and tell the opponent that I have top decked something that makes me care about the graveyard. Okay, no opponent sacking anything that turn, which is pretty nice. Do I want to play Saiba Syphoner to have an additional block here? Get back Archmage's Charm, I believe so. Take some damage, want to get some cards. Certainly getting very close to threatening lethal. I'll have to be mindful of when I Lightning Helix. And there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have to Lightning Helix face. Otherwise they can fizzle it. Me to hook for 1 represented here would be pretty annoying. Which is familiar. A2-3. Alright, so representing 1 food, 4 damage, 4 life, sack 3 life. I believe this timing is fine. Alright, Helix goes to the face. End of turn here, I could Archmage's Charm to draw 2. Am I supposed to assume... I think that I'm supposed to assume that that is correct. There's nothing meaningful to gain control of, and I'm probably just going to blink the Saiba Syphoner anyway. Molten Impact is not relevant here, March is good. Okay. I could march the trail here, but then I'm not holding up Archmage's Charm, which I think is probably incorrect. I could also get Lightning Helix back, which lets me march for 1 mana. Or else just go face with it. I think I'm supposed to get back Archmage's Charm, though. Okay, so this is going to be the tricky turn where my opponent has access to a lot of burn and I have access to very little interaction. Sucks for me. Do not like that. I don't believe I'm supposed to let them put that into play and make a food token, but it means that I'm shields down for the rest of the turn. Trail of Crumbs or another Witch's Oven would be pretty bad here. Okay, firing up Hive. Forces a double block from me. They kill Saiba Syphoner, shuffles it back into my deck, which I'm probably okay with. Meathook Massacre, I mean, them gaining life isn't really relevant, but it doesn't trigger because of Saiba Syphoner, which is cute. They are low on food production avenues. Cat sacked to play something at sorcery speed and play around Anger, or to just cast Deadly Dispute. Sure. Cards drawn. Soul Guide Lantern. Alright. Makes me top decking a Siphoner not good. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We enjoy. They have a Hive that I want to block, which encourages me to keep back 2 creatures. I would prefer to lose the Flyer over the 2/2 that makes mana, so we will not swing with anything. We will hold up a counterspell for something that makes food, and a March for something that does something. I can march the trail in response to, like, a goose, if needs be. If I draw another march here, I could just march this trail and still have a good answer to the Hive. Is there a world in which I'm supposed to march the Meathook Massacre to get that life pressure off the board? Oh, that could actually be correct. Definitely supposed to march one of the 2 here. I think it's Meathook. Which puts us in a weird space of turning another Meathook in their hand into a good card. Okay, Omen of the Sea isn't bad. Lightning Helix is actively good. Saiba Syphoner is also actively good. Alright. Well then. Let's make some mana. Mute Hook for 5 to clear my board. I do not really want that to resolve. Soul Guide Lantern to exile my graveyard makes Saiba Syphoner a lot worse. They have 2 mana plus a land drop to play, which is dangerously close to killing me if I were to tap out for this Siphoner. Versus Helixing their face. Tough choice, but I think I'm supposed to go shields down. It's possible for them to kill me, but it's hard. Already exiled 1 cat, 2 in the graveyard. Okay, thank goodness. Alright, next turn we have the Saiba Syphoner lock. I believe I just want to Helix their face to gain the 3 life now. Approximately even on time, slightly up even. Squirrel, huh? Okay. It does draw cards, which is annoying, but this is allowed. So I could steal the squirrel here, and then march the token. No, they got Hive, so that can't be right. They have Soul Guide Lantern, so Saiba Syphoner isn't actually representing anything here. I could march the Soul Guide Lantern, and then Archmage's Charm to steal the squirrel, and then Reflection Saiba Syphoner back a removal spell. I don't think that I am supposed to. I do believe I want another Saiba Syphoner. I believe my hand is good. I think I can swing with both of these and just let one get chumped. Well, eaten, not even chumped. Okay. This should be fairly difficult for them to handle. Not impossible, but hard. Okay, how do we want to handle this? I believe I just start by reflection targeting Saiba Syphoner and get the Soul Guide Lantern off the field. Could... Yes, they're actually going to try to Fatal Push the Saiba Syphoner in response. Which I'm sure the expectation is that I'll Archmage's Charm that. Which I will. And in response to that, we go and get our Archmage's Charm back. Okay, sweet! Then I was going to get to exile the squirrel. After the exile had resolved, and just having March and Archmage's Charm in my graveyard is all I need. Whew. Okay, how do we want to board? I want to bring in Farewells. I don't really want to bring in Anger. It's not like it's bad, it's just not very good. Shark Typhoon is fine for making blockers to protect Narset and Teferi early. Flameless Bolt and Molten Impacts aren't, like, excellent, but they're not bad either. Molten Impact's probably the worst one. I want to bring in Dovin's Vetoes, I'm pretty sure of that. Molten Impact, I think, is not super interesting. Rest in Peace just isn't worth it. I lose more from it than they do. Anger versus Shark Typhoon is such an interesting choice. Anger is actually slightly better against them if I'm actively removing Witch's Ovens with Marches and Portable Holes. But not, like, terribly ideal, usually. I think I can probably get rid of Anger. I think I value Flameless Bolt a little more highly than that. Not actually like a ton, but it does kill Goose. Killing Goose is a pretty big deal. This is pretty bad, but I will keep. Turn 2 Trail is going to be brutal. Turn 1 Goose, turn 2 Trail. Hard to beat. They did not have it. Alright. Love to see it. Since they didn't have the turn 2 Trail, I think I'm just playing out Fable and trying to accelerate out to turn 4 Teferi. Okay. Duress takes my Teferi, but my hand's already pretty good, especially if they don't have Trail. If they have gotten Trail, the life gets tougher-ish. They don't, they just have Cauldron Familiar, Soul Guide Lantern, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. No answers to the Goblin Shaman, which means the acceleration's about to kick off. Do I want to lose any of these cards? Not really. I could lose the Expressive Iteration, I guess, but why bother?
mindfulness before action.
Helix is interesting, but March is probably just better. I suppose my life is awkward if they can remove this treasure. I didn't really think about that, but Outland Liberator, Maelstrom Pulse options, probably not going to bother targeting the treasure with either of those. And if I don't end up having to veto here, then I think the benefits of that are just too high to
Just wait a moment.
use the treasure earlier. Alright, we got our Fable developed, which means a blocker for the Cauldron Familiar. Take another Narset. Play Steam Vents without hurting ourselves. Keep Narset in play to play around Deadly Disputes. And Sorcery Speed Soul Guide Lanterns. Don't have a direct answer to Luris, but Luris also isn't threatening anything that I care about right now. Cool. Oh! I love Fable of the Mirror Breaker so much! Alright. Round 5. Rather brutally, we are playing against Selesnya the Humans, which is a matchup I was terrified of and was hoping would not be very present. But we do win the dice roll, which is nice. And this hand is stellar. That's very nice. Letting me bone and draw with Esper Sentinel is not what I want to do, but here we are. Setting up this 3 damage off Molten Impact for their next creature is nice. Can potentially have a 2-for-1 with Lightning Helix is the objective here. We will elect to take some damage and then do that on their turn. If they choose not to play anything, as Dauntless Bodyguard enters the battlefield, huh? Harsh. There will be no opportunity to kill the Thalia when the Dauntless Bodyguard is in play. Rough, 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 rough. Okay. And I could choose not to play anything at all here. And save this for a future turn. Not getting to play Narset's annoying, but I'm not going to get to play Narset anyway. Less than ideal. The good news here is that the opponent's kind of locked out of doing anything too meaningful. They can't pass with Collected Company up and keep Thalia in play. If they play a creature, yeah, I get to Lightning Helix the Thalia and kill the Ranger Captain with the Molten Impact. We target the Thalia so that we actually gain the 3 life and the Lightning Helix doesn't fizzle.
Announcement received. Round timer started.
I could Flameless both Thalia and play Fable. That's probably the best option. Thalia's Lieutenant gets in with a Thraben Inspector if they have one. Skyclave Apparition does not remove our 2/2. Giant Killer does not remove our 2/2. Scapuration removes Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but doesn't answer our 2/2. Thalia does pseudo answer our 2/2, which is pretty annoying. Well, if we can't Teferi, I might as well put creatures on... I mean, I guess I could have attacked with the 2/2 into the Thalia, which really wouldn't have been exciting, and would have given me Teferi that I could uptick and then accomplish, like, nothing with. So I could double block Thalia. This attack screams Collected Company. If they Collected Company into 2 Thalia's Lieutenants, then Thalia kills both my 2/2s. What other options would they have? It has to be literally just Coco into 2 Thalias, right? No, I don't really think that I want to take that. This is... Well, the Thalia's Lieutenants can't pump the Skyclave Apparition this way around. They do pump the Thraben Inspector, which kills my 2/2, which I'm not excited about, but since the Skyclave Apparition can't get pumped... Sweet! Those were not good hits for them. I do not want this Dovin's Veto at all. Shark Typhoon cycling for 4, you say? Interesting, interesting, interesting. I think I'd rather just develop Teferi and get rid of Adeline, though.
If you show remorse, time is much more malleable than people.
Having 2 blockers for this Thalia and Catilda is pretty nice. If they have Thalia's Lieutenant, I can chump block the Thalia and then put the 3/3 in front of the Catilda. Thalia's Lieutenant and Adeline. Oh. That's kind of the worst case scenario. Now they actually do get to kill the Teferi. So I could kill Catilda and the 1/1, or I could kill the Thalia. I believe I'm probably inclined to leave the Thalia around. Just take my kills on the other 2 creatures where I can get them.
Let me know if you're up for that.
So I can Shark Typhoon a 4/4 into play. If I attack with a 2/2 to get a treasure token and play Yorion, I don't actually think that that works out in my favor at all. I could Shark Typhoon a 5/5 to trade with Adeline. Do I want to do that? That's pretty tempting. I might even not trade with Adeline. Just get to make Reflection of Kiki-Jiki copies of 5/5s every turn. It's an option. I might go for Shark Typhoon, make a 5/5, block Thalia's Lieutenant. I could double block Adeline, then. But they're probably just going to pump the Thalia's Lieutenant. Okay, yeah, actually, this already pumps the Thalia's Lieutenant up to a 5/5 because of the Adeline attack. I could put the 5/5 in front of a Thalia, then. Double block Adeline. Take 5 from Thalia's Lieutenant down to 4. Have 2 5/5s for the next turn. Chop down, fizzling, Shark Typhoon as a 5/5 is rough. No attack with a Thalia. Okay. What do we find with Shark Typhoon? Narset, not very meaningful. Alright, so we can't do anything about Thalia's Lieutenant, because the Esper Sentinel made it into a 6/6. I want to do this trade. Want to do this block. Do I want to jump? To jump or not to jump? Probably gotta jump. This leaves me with a token that can't get chopped down, although they can chop down Yorion. Saiba Syphoner would be a absolutely stellar draw. Expressive Iteration, not as stellar. Okay, so what? Expressive Iteration pay for it, or Narset pay for it? If I have 2 blockers, I block Ranger Captain and Thalia's Lieutenant, take 4 down to 5. Helix and March are pretty interesting. I do like those cards. But I forgot how much Helix cost because of Thalia. So if I kill the Thalia, I do not get to make a 3/3, which just puts me on jump block only. Oh, was I supposed to have done this in the reverse order? Put Lightning Helix in hand and then march the Thalia's Lieutenant? Yeah, probably. Okay, well. Regrets. I have a few. But then again, too few to mention. Yuck. Okay, so this puts us on chump block Thalia's Lieutenant. 3/3 in front of Sentinel will go to 8. If they don't swing with Sentinel, chump block Thalia's Lieutenant with 3/3. Thalia's Lieutenant up to 6, 7. Tap 3/3, remove Thalia's Lieutenant. So creature next turn is currently lethal if they play their creature this turn, but they're top decking. And they didn't play the Giant Killer to play around Yorion. Alright.
Those who cannot perceive beyond the keep an open mind.
Fable. Really relevant here. We'll hold the Omen. So Ranger gets in for 4. That Thalia's lieutenant can't get bigger than a 3/3.
Announcement received.
Come on. Okay. That means they can get the Thalia's lieutenant up to a 4/4 now. But thus far they've been... yeah, there they go. Okay. Anger of the Gods doesn't really save me here. Anger of the Gods plus a different removal spell. Well, a different removal spell on its own if they end up just sacking Ranger Captain here. Okay. Alright. Hero's a whiff.
Meditate and prepare.
Narset's a whiff. Yorion into play is nothing. Omen of the Sea, they sack Ranger Captain in response. It's also nothing. Now, I guess if they sack Ranger... oh, come on. Ah, it's only good top decks. I wonder if I was supposed to do this in response to Ranger Captain, just to make there a higher chance of them sacking the in-play Ranger Captain. Because my out was still Shark Typhoon. And now my out is like nothing. Yeah. Yeah, that's potentially a pretty big mistake. Probably wouldn't have mattered, but... definitely a mistake. Sheesh. Not the kind of hand that I want to play against out of humans. Hopefully next time, fewer collected company and fewer Ranger Captains. That is the goal. Alright, Anger of the Gods, Baneslayer Angels. Trim on Archmage's Charm. Trim on Memory Deluge. Shark Typhoon, weirdly not terrible that game. I don't really want Farewell, but maybe I want Farewell? Probably want Farewell over Archmage's Charm to be in time. Well, there's a lot of 1-drops in their deck that stealing is valuable. Not really. It's not, like, actually true. Alright, let's just get the Archmage's Charms then and play Farewell. Is Archmage's Charm better than Omen of the Sea? There's a pretty strong possibility of it. I actually think Omen of the Sea is probably worse than Shark Typhoon in this matchup. Memory Deluge versus Archmage's Charm is also kind of a tough choice. Yeah. Memory Deluge is probably slightly stronger. Yeah, I don't know, maybe not. Alright, we try the play again. This hand is keepable. Definitely painful, but also keepable. Okay, Baneslayer is stellar. If they Thalia me on 2, I can't anger, but I don't really want to anger a 2-drop anyway. I'd rather just hold a Flame Blessed Bolt in all likelihood. Depending on what they play on 3, I might just anger on 4. Adeline. Well, I don't really want to anger on 4 that. Okay. We have 1 giant killer in the main. So we're hoping deeply that there isn't a Ranger Captain of Eos on this turn. Oh yeah, I can live with. That also means no company. Thalia's Lieutenant's pretty brutal. Alright, no giant killer one time, please. Inquisitor Captain trying to tutor up Thalia's Lieutenant, allow for an Adeline attack. Succeeds. Gets Inquisitor Captain out of range of anger. Nope, I don't think so. Can I block Thalia here? 3, 12, 18. Okay, so I think I can make this block, take 15 plus 3, go to 1, top deck Farewell. Well, I think that's my out. Or actually, top deck second anger, the gods actually works too. But having failed that, Shark Typhoon for anger, Shark Typhoon for 1, leaves them 4 attackers. I block 2, gain 5 up to 7. You know, technically keeps me alive to draw 1 more turn towards Farewell. Yeah, down to 2 as far as I can tell. Possibly better if the opponent decides to play around something. I mean, I guess I'm representing March on the Thalia's Lieutenant, but Adeline's still lethal. Like March plus Helix could leave them in a bad spot. They like to just attack with everything. Yep, that is probably correct. Fable was not farewell. Land wasn't farewell either. 5 mana. I'm not seeing an out at this point. That's super not gonna do it. Womp womp. Ugh, that is the worst possible matchup that I was hoping would not get played because it's kind of awkward against food and Phoenix. I'm not even live right now. I hope. Whoa. Alright, we are on the play versus Selesnya Enchantress. I feel fairly obligated to keep a hand that can potentially turn 3 Fable. So we are hoping that things work out well for us from there. Mostly drawing a 3rd land. Never didn't have it. Won't be able to march the turn 2 Sanctum Weaver is a little annoying. Could march it on my turn? Might be worth it. From their perspective, they might be playing this out into a Lightning Helix. I top deck Lightning Helix. As tempting as it is to kill that Sanctum Weaver because of how much acceleration it represents, I don't think that I can afford to not play the Fable when my mana is this non-functional. So this is scary. Don't play Solemnity. Oh, wait, no, Solemnity's fine.
Announcement received. Round timer started.
Yeah, that stops on my Fable, which is annoying, but it was Sterling Grove that I was actually scared of. No card draw for opponent, please. Sanctum Weaver's going to tap for a lot of mana here, which is not what I would like. Would like to have a Narset. Opponent's deck is mostly only scary if it's drawing cards. Destiny Spinner, that's fine. Hallowed Haunting, that's not fine. No, but I can't stop it. You give... Oh, enchantments can't be countered too. Huh. Okay, well, that complicates matters. Do I want to draw cards then? Do I want to march the Sanctum Weaver to deny my opponent a bunch of mana? Probably. Probably supposed to draw cards. Ugh. Okay. Alright, that's a start. Narset is something. Looking for something that I can get rid of to march. So I can portable hold the Destiny Spinner to protect Narset. I could attack into the Destiny Spinner with the 2/2 and then Molten Impact it. I suspect I'm probably just supposed to take the portable hole. Okay, so Narset in play now. I have to be worried about the Hallowed Haunting. They're likely to get a lot of triggers here. They can't cantrip anything. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I'm supposed to get rid of the Sanctum... Or maybe... Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to get rid of the Sanctum Weaver over the Mana Dork. I'm supposed to get rid of the Mana Dork over the thing that gives uncounterable. Goodness gracious. Rain. Okay. Treasure achieved. 4 mana available for the opponent. Nine lives, more tokens. Anger? No. March. Number the next one. Could also play Teferi. Uptick. Not really have anything to do. No, I think we'll just take March. So if I march, exiling Sanctum Weaver, exiling March, then I can still Archmage's Charm this turn. Steal a Spirit, block a Spirit. Or I could take things a little slower. I think I'm not supposed to take things slower. Seven or more enchantments give flying. I could counter the Sanctum Weaver or protect the Narset. I believe I would prefer to protect the Narset. This is mostly just chump blocking though. I think that's probably fine. I don't know why I felt the need to do that now. Alright, we go back and get March. Still light on the land drops, which is pretty awkward. Land drop would have been like the best possible thing to hit here. Could Omen of the Sea looking for a land drop? Could leave them with the Sanctum Weaver, march a 1/1, play Saiba Syphoner to keep protecting the Narset. Leaves them with a lot of mana, but their constraint is cards at this point. Depending on how many spirits they make this turn, I can march 2 spirits. Okay. Which gives the spirits flying. And that's a problem. 9 lives number 2, huh? So I can now get rid of the Solemnity. Should I choose to? I believe for the time being I'm definitely supposed to be getting rid of Breeding Pool. Well, that's not very helpful. Those are also not very helpful. That's also not very helpful. Alright, would like my opponent to whiff. Yeah. That's the opposite of a whiff. Harsh, brutal, tough. Alright, this gets massively better post-board though, thankfully. What am I supposed to cut? I know I want 2 Farewell. Pretty confident in that. I guess Anger is probably not ideal. Shark Typhoon's probably not ideal. I'm probably supposed to play Dovin's Veto. And then just cheap removal. I believe that is probably the case. Solemnity stopping me from getting the discard to hit land drops on the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker turned out to be like radically important. Alright, we take the play. Oh, the lands are not exciting, but I keep a hand with Farewell. I have more 1-mana spells that are white that I can draw into than red. So So we lead on Glacial Fortress. Let's draw on untapped land. We did not. That's a bummer. If they play a 2-drop here, I think that I'm probably supposed to, for tempo reasons, march it. So that I can Omen the Sea to hit a land drop. Unnecessary. Delightful. I wonder if it was better to keep the Lightning Helix over Dovin's Veto. Enchantress's Presence is harder to remove, and we've already gotten rid of 1 Sithis, which makes the 4 of Enchantress's Presence more likely than the 3 of Sithis' hand? Probably? Maybe I'm supposed to be more concerned about Destiny Spinner, though? Well, they had the Sithis. Okay. Narset and lands. Spell Pierce? Mystical Dispute. Goodness gracious. Alright, land it is. 100% punished for not having the Helix, I guess. Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to let that resolve. Regrettably. Small possibility they attack into the Saiba Syphoner. Unlikely, though. Shark Typhoon also being something that they want to represent not playing into. Yup. Yup. That's a lot of cards in hand. This is exactly where Farewell isn't actually good. Alright. We have Siphoner Fable of the Mirror Breaker potentially available, which is deeply interesting. Although I'm going to Farewell Exiling Enchantments, which gets rid of Fable anyway. Draw 2. Jeez. This is a favored matchup too, but it's pretty heavily dependent on finding Narset. And having removal for their early stuff, which I just lined up totally wrong. I don't know if I want my opponent to not have lands at this point or what. Yeah, you're just gonna have Dovin's Veto for the Farewell, huh? I think I'm just supposed to veto that. Do not want this land. Alright, draw land anyway. I suppose I am prepared to get spell pierced. Oh, that is the one of Mystical Dispute and the one of Spell Pierce. I wonder how differently this goes if I keep the Lightning Helix instead of the Veto. I don't think that I'm supposed to mulligan functional hands in pursuit of Narset, even though that is really relevant in this matchup. Alright, time to top deck the other Farewell, and still mostly be behind. Narset, okay. So that does mean I have a Farewell next turn, if they don't interact in any way.
I have practiced against many with thoughtfulness before.
I could have a Farewell next turn either way. So I can Memory Deluge if I attack with the Goblin Shaman. Attacking with the Goblin Shaman gets hit by Destiny Spinner, which means I would need to hit an untapped land, which means Dovin's Veto could be a problem. I think that's probably correct, regardless. I could also just put Yorion in hand and not Memory Deluge this turn. That's actually pretty interesting. Okay. I mean, I'm giving the opponent a lot of freedom here, but we have Narset in play. I don't know how much removal they would have actually kept in. It's not unreasonable for them to not have removal here. But if they make enough spirits, then I also have to exile my board, which makes me a little more sad. Just enough to give stuff flying to kill the Narset. Yep. Understandably. And then they proceed to draw their deck, looking for Dovin's Veto. Or just holding up Dovin's Veto if they have it. So they get to put 3 enchantments of their choice on top of their deck in any order. That's going to be awkward. And that's assuming that they don't just play a bunch more cards here. Okay. Oh, do they have Rest in Peace still in their deck? No, Borrowed Time. Oh, yeah, okay. So they have a removal spell. And we knew we just put the other copy on the bottom of our deck, so there's nothing we can do. Yep. Brutal. Would have loved to have seen the Narset earlier. Wow, they got rid of the Saiba Syphoner. That was actually a pretty huge misplay from them. If I had wound up having another Farewell, I would have gotten to put it back in hand immediately. I mean, I guess they just had a bunch of cards, so it didn't matter. But I'm not seeing the way out of this. Yeah. Those aren't it. Alright, can we persuade the opponent to block with a spirit token? Can I figure out a way to make that matter? No, because I still can't kill enough things for that to matter. Destiny Spinner's still gonna kill me regardless. Pretty much. So if I'd taken the Farewell over the Memory Deluge, well, they wouldn't have played into it. It would have been face up. I'm willing to lose to humans, but this hurts to lose to. But that's gonna happen. 4 and 3. We're in day 2. That's something.